believe it with all my heart, but I have no idea. Are we recognizable as us in the other way? I don't. On the other side, I have no idea. It's what the poet says. Does anyone recognize me as me, or do we become the drop that is absorbed back into the ocean? I have no idea. But we could drink some Kool-Aid tonight. No, I'm kidding. We'll stay alive and figure it out. I hope in a good another 50 years, right, people? Can we pull another 50 off? We can do it. Okay. We can do it. Yes, did you have a question? Yes, sir. Yes, look at that.
I think I can do with that.
Beautiful.
My name is Bruce McFarland, and I was curious about, of course, some of the individuals or personalities that you would have liked to have been in the film that you were not able to get.
Roy Everett. Melody Melcher. That's a very good question. I had a list of people. I wanted more ethnic diversity, more feminine representation. I wanted Maya Angelou. I wanted Arundhati Roy, the author of A God of Small Things. I wanted, who's a beautiful professor out of Princeton, African-American, Cornel West. I wanted the Dalai Lama. And for various reasons, they could. All the people in the film were people that had changed me. Helped to change me, give me an idea. I read a book, I saw them on television, I saw them in a documentary. They helped to open me up to new ideas. So that's why they were in the film, and we didn't get everybody. But I think we got a nice representation. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Motion picture in the past.
Yes.
I'd love to know what the film society thinks of your change.
Yeah. Yeah.
Complete change. How has the industry responded to you?
I would love to give Bruce Cohen the microphone. It's true, Bruce, I get asked this question all the time. It's a very personal question to me, and I am probably the wrong person to answer it. How has the industry, you probably hear more rumors than I, how has the industry responded to my change? Do they find it nutty, crazy, another guy who's fallen off the deep end? What do you say? Yes, thank you, Mr. Roy. Just a week ago in LA, a week and a half ago. Right. Now, curiously, do they go back in rooms? I love having a personal conversation in front of 800 microphones. Do they go back in rooms? Because they're moved to me. We had a screening at CAA with some of the sort of people in our lives that help us move these films forward. But do they go back into their offices and go, won't make a dime, nutty, like, let's get it in another comedy? Yes. They think I have potential to do other things. Beautiful. All right. So it's a question that remains to be answered. I can tell you this. Look, I'll give you literally the people who've seen it that I know. Roma Downey, Touched by an Angel, is one of my neighbors, and she saw it early, loved it. Daryl Hannah, incredibly open spirit, is one of our neighbors, loves the film. Daphne Zadiga is a dear friend of ours. She saw it, loved the film. LA is full of incredibly creative, alive, light spirits who were raised in the same culture that I was raised in. So they have used their art in a way I believe that they were taught. I call some of that into question. So I know their hearts, and I know how open they are and how bright of lights they are. So I believe that they can start a conversation. That's why I made it. I think if Hollywood can turn itself into a conversation model, say, hey, we're beginning to see how we can participate in a new way. How we can take ourselves off of a pedestal and be one with all of you. That's where our art comes from, because we come out of social groups that teach us about human need and about human relationship. And so we don't, I'll speak for myself, I don't speak for them. I don't want to be here, you know? The culture elevates us when we get here. I don't want it. I don't want to be your model. I want to be your brother, your friend. And again, I don't speak for my showbiz friends, but I think they would really respond to that. And then we offer our art to you, and you offer your feedback. So, see if you can get Jim Carrey on the line. He can answer this better question. Okay.
You said in the film that we can't be expected to live morally and lovingly and justly while we live in a society that encourages and maximizes immoral behavior. What are the alternative systems, like worker self-management, mutual aid, things like that?
Yeah, I don't know what the alternative systems are. The alternative system that I think has ultimate power is your system. You see, how you choose to behave, how you choose to work in your life, what you choose to pay attention to. So, as Thomas Merton said, we talked about this afternoon, the only true revolution is the personal revolution. You see, we want everything to change on the outside. We want the systems to change. But it's not the system, it is the person inside the system. So, for example, I'm in a capitalist society, right? And I originally was taught to stand on top of that capitalist society and say, I'm more valuable than you. My films make more money than whatever businesses you do. I'm more valuable than you, pay me more. That is a principle that's not reflected in nature, it's not sustainable, and it's not, in my mind, kindred with the moral philosophies that I grew up in. So I shifted my life. I have more shifts to go, but I shifted my own life. So I'm still in a capitalist system, but I hope to be operating with more compassion inside of that system. So now when I do a movie, this movie for example, I'm paid what I'm needed. Okay, so the Directors Guild makes me take a certain salary, it's a minimum salary, but anything the movie makes goes back to you. It goes back to building communities, it goes back to the Jeb Stuart Education Fund, it goes back to building societies that are more equitable. You see?
But you never actually showed an interview of like the next generation. And I do think it's important that we have like an intuition from people, but why didn't you ever show it?
Because I'm not as evolved as you. That's a beautiful idea. It didn't occur to me. You know, our art comes from what sort of drops in and occurs to me, and perhaps I didn't listen. I think all art comes from listening. So that maybe can be a film that you'll make. You see, art isn't completed. It's a sentence with not a period. It's ... and it's waiting for you to complete through how you're affected by it. So that's a beautiful idea. I do think your generation can do it differently, and that's not alone. We have to be a part of that conversation. This movie is not about going out and selling whatever house you have because it's too many square feet. It's about starting a conversation and saying, hey, this brought up, or this is nothing new, but these principles are bringing up ideas that I want to talk to you about. You see, and as you craft your life, you can begin to craft it differently. I think around a truer wealth. You see? Very good question. I can't wait for your movie. I am too, T-O-O. All right, beautiful. Other questions? You know, you're right there. Don't forget the back. Well, let's do one more here. Yes. Pretty wild with the yogurt, right? You didn't realize that when you were having your breakfast that there was a relationship going on. You didn't realize that. Yes, where's the question? Yes, stand up so everybody can see you.
You had this experience where you almost felt suicidal. It was a rebirth, and then it drove this passionate pursuit.
Yep.
And then we watched this film, and we are passionate ourselves. How do you sustain that, is my question. Like, do you have a practice in the mornings? Do you have, like, when you deteriorate with greed of your society of Hollywood, the competitiveness, the questions you have to Mr. Cohen about what do they say, and
Yes.
our egos get involved. And how do we, like, walk into the parking lot and touch each other?
Yeah, be careful with that.
Yeah.
Okay. So the question I throw back at you, how do you do it? You see? And the question goes to a deeper question, which is, who are you? Who are you? What does your heart say about who you are? And then how do you live out that heart? So I think, personally, the most powerful things we have are family, community. We've learned this vertical model of happiness, right? We've learned that the right education, job, status, house, rewards, awards. We've learned this vertical model, and it's all the horizontal things that we find bring the truest wealth, the truest happiness, family, relationships, creativity, connection, compassionate acts. And yet, we live for this. So how do we stop living for this? How do you stop living for that? It's really about what you do. What I personally do may move you or it may not. So I do. You know the saying, you are what you eat? I try to eat as much healthy food, meaning what I take into my system, my spirit. So I don't start the day watching the news, which isn't news. It's identifying a symptom in the world, and other people have killed other people, and there are other environmental problems, and this lawmaker is fighting with this lawmaker. I move to something that feeds me like a spiritual truth. I read Thomas Merton. I read Rainer Maria Rilke. I read the poetry of Rumi or Hafiz. I read Mary Oliver. I read Emerson. And I soak in that. It's called Lectio Divino. That's my way. You may have another way. You may take a walk in nature and feel that inherent connection that you, by emptying, you fill yourself with this life force that is in you and in the tree. You see, it's whatever moves you. But who are you? You have to leave this theater and stop the sleepwalk. The spiritual path is about waking up. And this, if anything, is an alarm clock to the youth, to our generation, to the generation ahead of us, to begin to see, as Emerson said, see the facts nearer. And what you are taught is not necessarily the truth. The way we do things can be rethought. We've only been doing this a very short while. The human species is 175,000 years old, arguably. But that's the ballpark most scholars agree on. We've been doing this model about 10,000 years. It's not quite working. The creativity is beautiful. The technologies are incredible. The inventions are incredible. The way we can reach out across space and time to Japan with our hearts and help, even with a prayer, incredible. But the way we fight each other for grades and resources is insanity, especially if we believe the moral teachings that we're all brothers and sisters. Let's start living them. So feed yourself with those ideas each day. Take a step. You're not going to climb the whole mountain in a day, but trust that step. That step matters. You see, society will tell you, yeah, look at that mountain. You can't conquer that mountain. You can't end slavery. 27 million people are still enslaved. You can't end slavery. Take a step. Read an article on it. You see? Take a step. In ending that slavery, you will end your own slavery.